I want to press in here. What's the nuance of opening 2 cafes? Let's shed some light on the good. Let's shed some light on the bad. And let's give the people some considerations.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ross, and you are listening to the Valor Coffee Podcast. We do this every week. We are a coffee roaster and 2 cafe coffee company just north of Atlanta here in Georgia. And we're excited to bring this episode to you today. We talk about should you or should you not open a second location and the certain criteria by which you might judge that decision. We pose a lot of questions that we asked ourselves in the decision of whether or not to open our second location. And the cool thing about today is Wednesday, April 3rd marks 1 year of our second location being open. So it's a cool time to reflect on what we've learned, what we would have done differently, and hope that you can learn something as well. Now, I don't think you can see it in this shot, but we have a Eureka Olympus 75E grinder on the back bar here that Clive Coffee sent us, and we are loving it. And I would tell you if we didn't love it, I promise. I'm not one of those people that just because somebody sent us something that we're just going to talk highly of it. We are very honest about the equipment that we like and don't like on the program because we want to bring you good information. But this thing is sturdy and it grinds a 18-gram dose of espresso, and I'm pretty positive it's under 4 seconds. And that time save is invaluable in the cafes. I think we'll end up putting one of these grinders in one of our cafes eventually, or at least on the cart, because it's just so fast. The grind quality is really great. The user experience is awesome. And I'm kind of familiar with it from using Nueva Simonelli Mythos grinders. You know, the way you change the grind setting is familiar. So we're really loving this grinder. If you use code VALOR5 at checkout on Clive Coffee, we get a little kickback from the sale, which helps the program, helps our company. All the information we're giving out is obviously free. So that helps the program when you use VALOR5 at checkout. And you also get 5% off all Eureka grinders and Luca espresso machines on Clive. So be sure to take advantage of that. Use code VALOR5 at checkout. If you have any issues with any of that, send us an email at info@valor.coffee. We're excited to be at SCA next week, Specialty Coffee Association Expo out in Chicago. We talk about it in the episode, but if you are planning on going, shoot us an email at info@valor.coffee and we'll be sure to meet up. Without further intro, let's get to the episode.
It is Wednesday, April 3rd, and we are sitting around a table in Roswell, Georgia. Valor Coffee Podcast. I'm sitting with my co-hosts, Ross Walters and Ethan Rivers.
What's up?
I'm like, how can I make this as Rich Eisen as possible? That's what I need to do.
I love Rich Eisen.
Just have like 40 years of radio.
And like a woman voiceover, you know?
Sitting at the my desk furnished by Granger in the Roku studio. Hey, today's a big day.
We gotta name the studio. Who wants naming rights to the studio? We'll sell them.
Probably Valor.
The something lab or what?
What's your dream? The Pacific Oat Milk Lab, sponsored by Pacific. We don't use any of their products, but we do take their money. Pacific. Guys, today's a big day. Do you know why today's a big day?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
I do.
Hey, happy birthday, guys.
Oh, my hands are kind of clammy.
1 year.
1 year, Dunwoody. LFG.
LFG, baby. That's our second location, in case you didn't know. Did we open on a Monday?
Yeah.
I believe.
Leap year.
Hey,
right.
Fun little thing about both cafes. They open right around some dear friends' weddings that put a little jingle jangle mix up on both fronts. So the first time Alpharetta opened was my childhood best friend Matthew's birthday, and we had to close the shop early. So me and Ross could go make... We totally did, dude.
That was a soft launch. I think the plan was never to be open all day.
I don't know.
And you guys still left before everyone else, and we were still open for a minute after you left.
That day was crazy.
That was a crazy day. We had committed to doing drinks and DJ for Matthew's wedding.
Hand squeezed, probably 300 limes.
Yeah.
Over at the townhome. Hey, bring us into day one of Dunwoody. What was that like? Were you there? I wasn't there.
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered it more.
Yeah,
Such
me
a
too.
faint
I was in Alpharetta. Okay.
I was on the opening. I opened that day. Yeah, I just remember the CrossFit gym across the parking lot. We got some business from that. I remember asking everyone, like, how did you hear about Dunwoody? Have you been to our other location? And most of them had, we'll get into this later. But when opening a second location, I always wondered how many of our guests in that second location would be stolen, in air quotes, from our first location.
Right. They're about 20 minutes apart.
Yeah, about 20 minutes apart without traffic.
Oh, don't get me started on the traffic, Ross.
Right?
It's my favorite coffee. Shout out East Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. And then energy was high. Everybody was happy. There was no like when a food service establishment opens, sometimes it's a little frantic.
Yeah.
And the vibe from the staff is giving like, hey, we're figuring a few things out, so just be patient with us. Like, it wasn't that way at all, which was super cool. And I think that's just a product of one of the main driving themes behind that second location was copy and pasting our systems from the first one. So I think that helped.
Having people train for 2 weeks prior to opening was also pretty clutch and something we hadn't had experience with before.
Yeah, you are not capping out on that one.
There's zero cap on that statement.
Our lives were so different a year ago. We were just like tile guys.
Yeah, we did.
That was our job.
A lot of tile.
And isn't it funny that that's what happens when you're a business owner? You can just, if there's a season where there's a need like that, you're just like, I'm going to not do my other stuff. Like, we didn't do a podcast for months, right? Like 2 months.
That's right.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. We're on a hot streak, though. Been going since Thanksgiving.
Hey, little birdie told me we're coming up on 100 eps.
Yes, 100 episode special. If you have ideas for it, let us know
in the comments below. You got
we
some
totally
sales
do.
reports?
We just want to see if they're like the same. Yeah, I was just gonna say our first day in Dunwoody, we did net sales 1611.
Hey,
I'm not trying to like flex or anything. I just wanted to
give context.
Give data.
Yeah,
that was a full day, 7 to 5.
Yeah, I mean, all the days were not like that right off the bat by any means.
Wonder what our worst day in Dunwoody ever was. Do you think we ever dipped below 1,000?
Maybe one time. We definitely dipped below 1,000 a lot in Alpharetta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember early on in Dunwoody. I don't know if it still is this way. Maybe you can speak into this, Ethan, since you're the head coach over there as of right now. But we had really good morning business and like no afternoon business at all.
Yeah, it's still pretty morning heavy for schniz, but weekend afternoons are solid. And yeah, it just depends. I mean, most afternoons I work are constantly steady.
Yeah.
Versus dead. But yeah, definitely we're in the morning kind of business though.
Right.
For sure.
Whereas in our first location, there's a lot more offices around there. Alpharetta's a lot more of a hang.
Yeah.
So I think the afternoons have not been equally as busy to the mornings, but closer for sure than Dunwoody.
Yeah, a lot of workers getting a little post-lunch brew.
Yeah.
I'm not very easily finding a below $1,000 day.
That's good.
Yeah.
While he's looking for that, what coffee are we drinking today?
Well, we did not have a coffee sent in to review.
Wink, wink, everyone out there.
Yeah, we're mad. So
we deserve, we're entitled.
Please appease our anger.
Yeah.
By sending us coffee.
Yeah. We'd love to review some coffee if anybody wants to send us some. If you want the address to our HQ so that you can send that, send us an email at info@valor.coffee. We'll give you that info. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ross. Hey, today we are drinking our spring blend that has been talked about prolifically on this pod.
Yeah.
Swoon, 60% Burundi Natty, 40% Rwanda Washeroni. Great cup.
Yeah. Can't
Floral,
complain.
fruity.
Floral, fruity, sweet.
I was pulling this at home for a minute and it was good.
Is your at home machine still broken?
No, it's fixed.
What's it called again?
Flare.
It was broken?
Yeah, it was. I think.
You want to put Flare on blast for a second?
Like we broke it.
Yeah,
We did?
We broke it.
Oh, man.
I'll say we broke it, as in me and Michaela broke it. Yeah.
Jointly.
Yeah. I think there was a situation where I was chirping the burrs, like making sure my burrs were aligned.
Yep.
And I turned the grinder off, and Michaela didn't know I had made the adjustment because her coffee process is like, I set things up the way they should be. And when she makes coffee, it should just be that way. And so usually the dial goes from 0 to 100. And we grind for espresso around like 11. And I was like calibrating burrs at chirp for 0. So I had like changed it to 0 and turned the grinder off. She ground the espresso on 0, just went to make her coffee and like pulling down on the flare and like nothing's happening. And so she was like pulling down, and then this little plastic piece that was like nothing broke. So it was my fault. And
sounds like
so it really was like a we.
Yeah. We
each,
broke it.
You each played your part.
Yeah. And then I ordered the part, and now it's here. And now I make espresso 4 days a week on it.
How good is the espresso?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's some of my best work.
Flare,
honestly.
Please sponsor us. Please.
Do you think we should do all flares in the cafes?
Yes, dude. Intelligentsia has a flare bar.
A flare bar?
Yeah, a flare bar. They're like, you want the shot on flare?
Shot on flare. Dude, are we gonna go in Telly or in Chicago?
I haven't even thought about it.
I've never been to an
either.
Intelligentsia before.
I would go.
I'll do anything.
Okay. Dude, we're just gonna go hang out at the Bean.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, let's skip SCA. Go hang out at
Just
the Bean.
go Bean.
Go Bean it. Hey, speaking of SCA, it's coming up, guys. Specialty Coffee Association
Expo.
World Expo 2024, Chicago. The only thing that we're on the books for is Saturday at 12.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be brewing up coffee at the Third Wave Water booth.
That booth number is
blankety
drum roll
blank.
Third Wave Water. Well,
1058. Booth 1058. Third Wave Water.
Do you think that means there's 1,058 booths, or do you think they just started at 1,000? Like your booth 1001, 1002.
I don't know.
we
dude.
could ask them.
You want me to send an email?
How many booths are going to be
You
there?
go into the website, find their email. And
We all know
that's
I
a
can't,
deep cut.
We
right
all
there.
know I can't navigate a website.
That's facts.
Yeah, we've got Verve at 11 and then Valor at 12. The two
Naturally.
V's. Just put them right there together.
Yeah, so we'll have the three of us there, and then Luke Vineyard, and Sam Smith.
The artist.
Our roasters.
And maybe they'll be working the bar. Maybe we'll be working the bar, but there'll be enough people for us to hang out with everybody.
I'll probably be doing push-ups.
Maybe we can
showing off for people.
It's really odd. Maybe we could, walk the floor together after that. I know we're gonna have
hand in hand.
We could hold hands. One of our wholesale partners up in New York, Super Official, is going to be there. I think he said he's trying to bring his whole team, so he asked to meet up. So that'd be fun. And several of you listeners have reached out. So let's have a good old party. That's one reason we're doing this podcast, is to actually be able to meet other human beings in coffee. So don't be afraid to reach out to info@valor.coffee if you want to hang with us.
Or Ross's personal number, 555-555-5555.
555. Yeah. And if you want, please send us an email and get on this list. I'm trying to talk Elijah into coming as well.
Now?
Yeah.
Brother?
It's only a 4.5 hour drive.
Come on.
He drives all around.
I don't know, man. The newly married, under construction cafe guy, that's a lock. That's a yes.
Yeah.
Elijah, if you're listening, I know you're not, but please come.
Hey, Ross.
Yes.
Someone told me that you had some questions.
Well, they were right. And it is none other than longtime listener
PK.
and non-first time caller, Peter Kloof
Thank you, Peter.
of Noeo.
Peter, you're talking to Valor. Let's hear your
Noeo
question.
Coffee.
We got to
Is
get a
that right?
live call.
Oh yeah. No AO, baby.
Noea.
No.
He sent I forget where it was from, but it was nice and floral. Remember the purple and everything?
We were talking about how it's like the chocolatey Kenyan vibe.
Yeah.
I think it was a blend.
It was a blend. I'm pretty sure.
Colombia and
So he sent a question and it goes like this. How did you go about picking up your first wholesale accounts?
whoa.
A little context. We've been struggling to convince people to switch or even to just add us to their offerings. Seems like we aren't solving a problem they have if they like their current offerings. We are the only roaster in our town, but there is a town about 45 minutes away with lots of great roasters that kind of dominate our town. They also provide contracts that they are the only roaster the cafe can use, and they offer them espresso machine maintenance and such. That's not something we can really do being so small. How do you break into the scene?
Wow.
That's a good
PK.
question. It's a good question.
Peter, you said something in your message that I think is the answer to your own question. How about that?
The key.
What is your value add for these people? If you don't have that sorted out, then it's going to be really tough to convince someone to make a change, because why would they? So, Ross, I'll let you speak about our value add and what we bring. But for example, whenever we are selling someone on our coffee, we know the areas that we're going to be better than other roasters, and it's really easy to point to. But beyond that, cold calling is hard and sucks. So you got to figure out a way to kind of warm up that relationship before you just go in guns ablazing making a sale. So, you know, if you have a coffee shop you're targeting, go and work there once a week and get to know the owner. And I bet you that will go a long way.
Yep.
It does remind me of, thank you, Rad. When we started roasting and we were trying to add wholesale accounts, we would have
Brutal.
We would have lists and be like, oh, they're going to work with us. Oh, they'll use our coffee. Easy. That's one. Do we even need to ask? We just send them coffee. They'll use it. But
I think that's one of the biggest business lessons we've learned, is to not make assumptions about anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't go assuming. But I feel like wholesale, I mean, it's a long play. We've been doing it for 6 years.
It's 2018.
Pretty passively, but, you know, more actively now. And still a lot of that came from like earning reputation, because a lot of it, I mean, what a coffee shop uses it for their coffee, that requires a lot of trust on that owner's end. And you kind of have two things fighting against you. You have to build that trust. And even if this has happened to you, like even if it just makes sense for them to work with Valor, I feel like it's just kind of hard to get businesses to like make moves sometimes. It's like, yeah, this all just seems right, but like I don't have enough time to like execute this whole change. And like what we're doing right now is working enough that I'm just not going to. And as a guy that primarily works in the cafes, I can totally relate to that of like, hey, this is just working, you know? But if I was like, you know, it makes sense for someone like JP out of Meadowlark, who that's his passion, is bringing in coffee. But for a lot of coffee shop owners, that is like a big part of their business, but it's not like something they're really trying to like ruffle all the time. Ross?
Yeah. I think you need to give yourself a reason to be confident, because you might not have a reason to be confident. You know, just because you exist doesn't mean that you actually do provide more value than someone else. And, you know, I know your coffee is great because we had it and the packaging is great, you know, and obviously you're great, Peter.
We love you.
Good guy.
Peter, love you.
Love you, Peter.
Man, you're a good guy, Peter.
He's a good man. Husband,
Maybe father.
possibly father.
Peter, comment your like family status.
Yeah. Just give us the whole deets. Just, you know, really honestly assessing what do I bring to the table in Noeo. And is that actually better than someone's current provider? In the beginning, when we first started roasting, I just remember sending samples to people in the back of my head thinking like, our coffee is like pretty good.
Yeah. Our packaging is not.
Our packaging is like definitely not as good as what they're currently doing.
Yeah.
And I am like, I just remember feeling like lacking so much confidence.
Yeah.
And I should have, because I didn't have a reason to be confident.
Yeah, that's the purple cow thing, dude. You got to like have your product dialed before you can feel really good about selling it.
Yep. One of my favorite Hermosi quotes. Anyone out there, Alex Hermosi. Honestly, Peter, you should start listening to Alex Hermosi instead of us.
You're going to see him. You're going to be like,
yeah,
I'm not listening to this guy.
No, he says a lot of cool things about sales and marketing, and we've taken some of the stuff that he said. But in one of his books, this line, "The pain is the pitch." It's kind of pointing to what you're saying of understanding people's problems and being able to solve them. And so figuring out what is your target customer's pain, because that is the place that you can fulfill their need the most. That's been cool for us. Like the value that we add in our wholesale program. Can I just be honest real quick here? A lot of the people that I talk to, I always ask them like, what are some of the things that you don't like about your current provider? And they're like, I haven't heard from them in a year. Or like, I've reached out to them about buying this or this, and they won't respond to me. And I'm over here just like, what? Like
the easiest thing to do.
And so honestly, like every time I try to be very punctual and very responsive. And that's not like a flashy marketing pitch, but it does communicate a message, experientially in the like courting process, if you will. So that's really important to us, because dependability and consistency, we talk about it all the time, are like the two most important things in a wholesale partner, because you are open maybe 6-7 days a week as a cafe, and your main product is coffee, and you're relying on your provider to get you that coffee in a timely manner, and it also be good too. So if you can't depend on someone to hit you back, then how can you depend on them to ship you coffee in time? So I think that's value that we add. We also have the benefit of having 2 cafes and a fair amount of experience in managing people. And I think that is every cafe manager's favorite and least favorite thing about their job is dealing with people. That's like the pain a lot of times, is like finding good employees, hiring, firing, training, all of these sort of people things. And we have a good bit of experience in all those things. So we're able to offer the resources that we have used internally to our wholesale partners. Because I remember when we were first starting this has just turned into a Valor wholesale pitch. So sorry.
Welcome to the Valor wholesale pitch.
But when we were first starting our wholesale program, we were like, okay, other roasters, they offer hands-on training, like how to pour latte art or how to tamp or how to, barista basics, basically. That's cool. That will help their wholesale partner sell more of their coffee and brew it really well. That's all right. Great. We'll do that. But like, what makes a good coffee shop? What are all of the elements to a good coffee shop? Is it not more than just how to tamp, or like just how to pull a good shot, or just how to steam good microfoam? Is it not the speed of service? Is it not also the culture of the cafe? Is it not also, and maybe most importantly, like your turnover or lack thereof in your staff? So if we can add value in all of those places, that might contribute more to the partnership than, if they're like making coffee at the highest level possible. So That's some of the value that we bring in our wholesale program. So I would just ask yourself, what is the value that you're bringing? And if the answer to that is like, well, I don't freaking know, then like you need to figure it out. Like you need to gain the experience, gain the knowledge, gain the expertise in a certain area. And it doesn't have to be all areas. It can just be like one main thing. If you have experience managing cafes, then bolster that. If you have experience in being really hyper nerdy about extraction or whatever, like let that be your pitch. But if you're looking around, you're like, well, I know how to roast coffee and I'm pretty good with people, but that's kind of it. Like gain the expertise and then talk about it. And whenever you're trying to pitch yourself or whatever it is, say like, this is our specialty. So that's what I would say. But none of that means anything if you don't have relationships. So
That's
make
right.
relationships.
And start a podcast.
His second question. Should we go? I have two more.
We'll go with his second question. We'll save the next one for next week.
All right, cool. How did you market your cart when you first started out? Did you just set up on the street somewhere? Ethan, why don't you take this one, man?
You're the expert here.
I'm the marketing guru. I guess when we first started the cart, it was really like more or less weddings, young. It was another relationship game of like we were young Christians having dry weddings, and then we knew other young Christians having dry weddings.
It was basically just people we knew.
It was people we knew.
Yeah.
And then, but when you're at an event and you're making a positive impact, that becomes marketing for like, oh, my niece is getting married. She would love having this. And then that turns into another wedding. And then I think we did try to get into the pop-up game a little bit. And that, I feel like that bombed pretty hard every time we went to like a shop, like a market or something. Yeah. And our biggest like maybe marketing break was going to a farmer's market, the Georgia Tech farmer's market, about like was that the spring of when we started?
Fall, right?
Or fall. So it would have been the next.
Yeah, I think so. Right? Who knows?
We gotta have the stuff ready. We could have a timeline.
Yeah.
On the wall one day of everything that has ever happened.
I used to scroll back through our Instagram. I'm just like, I'll scroll back real quick. But now it's like way harder because it's like hundreds of posts instead of like 80.
Yeah. But hey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, like we had an Instagram and we posted funny stuff on it and like said book an event with Valor, but that was about it. And it just trickled. And I mean, we never had a bustling catering business. That might be casting us in a funny light because we talk about catering all the time. But what really took us to the next level was landing a pop-up at the co-working space where our Alpharetta Cafe is in front of. So, but I mean, this time around with catering, I feel like we, have flyers in the cafe. We're doing a lot more businesses and that has generated a lot more traffic. We just don't like doing it that much. So we don't give all of our time and attention to it.
And we price it too high.
Intentionally.
Yeah. Hey, so if you're out there and you want to run our catering program, we'll fly you out to GA, put you up. But that'd probably be my shorthand answer. Hey, kind of starts again with relationships, guys. People you know. So just be like the most popular person and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Who is that?
That's Ross.
Bro, doesn't even look like you.
I know.
Teeny tiny beanie, too.
Teeny beanie, teeny Ross.
Oh, the Moonshine Festival. I forgot about that one.
That was a big break.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the pop-ups are usually a bust sales-wise, but you can make connections with people, and that can turn into opportunity.
Mm.
That is how we got the pop-up, the main cafe pop-up in Thrive.
And when you are starting a cart, you don't really have the right to be picky about what events you do or don't do. Honestly, just do them all.
Because you never know, right?
Yeah.
You never know.
Like
anything.
Because you never just know.
You will never know.
Yeah.
All right, host, take us there, man.
So, Cafe Dunwoody, 1 year later. It was our second. Would we do it again? Should we do it again? But the main question, as a one cafe business expanding to 2, people say that's what you should do. Grow the empire.
More locations.
More locations, more money.
Be like Starbucks.
Yeah. So I just thought I'm going to pose this question to you guys. Like whenever I was writing this episode as the host.
Right.
Is it worth it? Yes or no? It's just a yes or no question.
And we're going to end?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
For
All
us.
right.
For us.
We'll see you guys next week. Just kidding.
And we're back.
Bonus episode.
I want to press in here. What's the nuance of opening 2 cafes? Let's shed some light on the good. Let's shed some light on the bad, and let's give the people some considerations.
Okay.
Yeah.
That last one. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, maybe the first thing when you're considering opening a second cafe is, am I carbon copying this John? Or am I going for a
CC in this J?
my command seeing command V this J?
He doesn't even use command V, bro.
No, I do.
He right
he
click,
right
copy.
clicks.
Right click.
No, he goes to edit,
Edit on
copy.
the nav bar. Yeah.
I can't
Dude,
work
you
under
suck.
this. I know. Or do you, as maybe you suggested to David Bazilia, if he was ever going to have his second cafe, do a different concept?
David, yeah, as his mentor,
As
I was
David's-
talking to him about that.
The host of David's life.
Yeah.
You know. So I guess we can speak from what do you think our answer to that is? How similar would we call Valor Dunwoody to Alpharetta? And how similar would maybe a guest deem Valor Dunwoody to Valor Alpharetta? Because I would deem it extremely similar, but the one difference is that it is 3 times the size.
I would do the same. It's just it's Valor Alpharetta on a bigger budget.
Yeah.
That's the thesis. Especially, we've kind of even retroactively made Valor Alpharetta more into Valor Dunwoody in a way.
Oh,
Isn't that funny?
yeah.
But
Which just means upgrading
yeah,
the stuff because we have the money somewhat to do that now.
with so much money.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't have to take out a loan to do that. Like we had
like
tons of money.
Yeah, no one would ever do that.
No.
Yeah, so that is a good question, and I think that all just depends on the person doing it. Because you have the 2 things. It's like if you do a completely different concept, completely different name, you can do something completely different and unique, and it will have a different draw to maybe even a different audience than your other place. If you do them the same, you get to build on the brand that you've already created, which is, talking about this wholesale and cart stuff. The hardest part for a lot of people is the beginning and like creating the brand and getting people to follow the brand. So imagine creating that and you open this other place and you're like, nope, I'm going to throw a different name on it.
Right.
Start from scratch. Unless you're like a famous restaurateur,
Right.
then that's going to be
Like Gordon Ramsay
kind of hard. Unless you're Gordon
or Guy.
or Guy,
GF. Hey, I mean, not to put y'all on the spot.
Danny.
Do y'all know any coffee shops that have like same owner, different coffee shops?
It was Go Get 'Em and G&B way back.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, which one of they've really pressed into Go Get 'Em, right? And there's one G&B or something like that.
I'm pretty sure that is correct.
Yeah, but a long time ago it was like 1 and 1, no pun intended.
Yeah. That's good.
And then that was like before they roasted as well. So that's the one that comes to mind for me. And I'm sure that people are going to comment and say a million different ones, right? You guys, you're
And
going
we
to comment?
appreciate that. Thank you.
And thank you for commenting.
Yeah.
Hey, quick ad here. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel you can subscribe to podcasts, yeah?
You can.
Please do that.
Catch on, Ross. 100 episodes. Gosh.
Yeah, that really helps us out a lot with the algorithm world. So thank you. I I think it has so much to do with the longer term vision that the owners have for the company. Let me explain.
What do you mean by that?
Let me kind of unpack
I'm
that.
so lost. Help!
We wanted to open it when we were first trying to open our second location. We wanted to open as many possible coffee shops as we could.
Did you say we said 13 at one point?
Yes. We wanted to open 13 locations.
Macon, Perry, Warner Robins.
Macon and Perry.
Coffee County, Bacon,
But
these are all counties in Georgia. Fairbairn.
that is not a county. Let's be clear, or a city, or anything. That is a hybrid of a football player kicker's last name and Fairburn.
Fairbairn, baby.
That's good. So we set up our cafes to do that, to be able to have multiple, more than just two. And ways that, like, how that manifested itself was we wanted it to be very similar to the first one because we wanted to replicate it multiple times, even more times than just two. And we also invested more dollars into leadership payroll. So we had basically two managers at each location. And then Ethan was the retail director over those leaders.
A leader of leaders.
Wow. What's it like?
I'm not anymore. So.
Who's leading you? Right.
Lord, man. You guys.
We're leading you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So, yeah. And, we put more money into the leadership payroll.
Thank you.
To facilitate more than two locations because we knew that we would need to have very present and strong leaders in all of our cafes if we were going to have more than one or more than two. We have changed plans now. Like we're just kind of sitting at two for the foreseeable future. So now we're like, okay, we don't need as many leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are organically moving on, which is sad because they're moving on, but it also affords the opportunity that we can restructure some of how we view the leadership in these cafes. So, I think that has always been the number one thing to think about besides funding. Like probably funding and then people are like the two things I think about with expanding in retail. Like, where are we going to get the money? And are we going to have to go into crazy amounts of debt to get this money with bad interest? And so there's that. And then there's also who's going to run this, John? Like
Right.
who's going to do it? And
Because you can't be in two places at
One
once.
time.
One time.
Yeah.
Times.
Once again.
yeah, so I guess just as we work through this, we can just like pose the questions that you should be answering if you're thinking about opening a second location.
I'll be the decider. of
I'll
that,
tee you up
but
for that.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally.
I'm just reminding you.
Yeah, because especially if you're one hombre, one person, like if you're gonna grow, that's kind of a tall order. So making sure that you have enough people that you can trust with that leadership to carry that culture that make it worth replicating, you know? And something that we talked about a lot kind of on the back end of Dunwoody, it makes us really hesitant to consider growing for another cafe is that conversation around ROI, like with funding, how much do we have to take out and how long would it take for us to like make this even a profitable concept, because we're already a business, but are we just going to get in more debt to stay in debt for the next 30 years, Yeah,
because that's the thing. It's first of all, it's really easy for people to say, okay, I'm gonna put $400,000 into this place. How long is it going to take me to make $400,000? It's not how long it's going to take you to make $400,000. It's how long it's going to take you to profit $400,000. And if you're taking a cut of that profit, that is taking that number even further down.
Yeah.
So it's a long play.
Yeah.
And I think so many people have a different idea of break even.
Yeah.
And, like break even being, cash flow 0
Mm-hmm.
or break even being like profitability, or break even being like I paid for my investment. I'm like, when am I going to pay for that investment?
That's the thing that I've heard so many people ask me with when they know I own a business. They're like, so you guys have you guys like turned a profit? I'm like, that's a really interesting question you've posed there, because like if by that you mean we have paid off all of our debt and
Talk to me in 30 years.
you know, like we've used the profit we made from our business to pay the debt, and now we're making extra profit on top of that. No, but we are like netting some profit in each entity in our business.
Right.
We're right, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great. But that's just not really how it works. That like you take out a loan and then you pay it all off and then you start turning a profit, you know. I guess that would be technically true.
There's a few different ways you can chop this up, right?
Right.
Well, okay. So our structure when we did this was we staffed up in Dunwoody. We had leaders, and then we had you, Ross, as the support role in Dunwoody, like light hands on it. You stayed in Alpharetta.
I was the OC.
You were the OC for a spell.
Which is like second in command
You stayed in Alpharetta
as head coach.
as head coach. What were we thinking with all that?
I know we were talking about it in our like very long prep meeting about this. And I was thinking about it earlier, maybe even while I was throwing the Frisbee.
Is that why you did so bad today?
Yeah. Okay. I did really bad today. I don't know if anyone can just tell that I'm off on in podcast world. I'm a little off because I had a bad game. All right.
Yep.
And we lost. But I'm here. I'm doing my best.
I hate losing more than I love winning.
I think we should stop right there. Hey, okay. I was head coach because Lillaby, though had been with company for a long time, was newer to leadership. Like she had not been operations coordinator long enough to feel comfortable just to make the jump to head coach, let alone the gentleman who is the operations coordinator now, Sam, was not in that position to be operations coordinator. So I was kind of like I was making sure that things were still going to be rolling well in Alpharetta. But I guess in hindsight, if we had been developing that so that they would be more ready without me, so that I could be on the new thing, that would probably have been better.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of the cafe guy, and Ross
is not.
Like, he doesn't even know how to pull a shot.
No. Yeah, I think that is an awesome point.
However,
we felt the reality of you not being able to be in Dunwoody very much.
Yep.
And
because I was running the cart and wholesale.
Yeah. Like running it.
And you lived in the opposite direction, like over an hour away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, but I was in Dunwoody like all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay. That was just a consideration. I don't know.
The big point there for me is we wanted to be really careful in ensuring that our first location did not become neglected or de-emphasized in our eyes. Because, you know, there's a shiny, newer, higher budget cafe that we're opening. We're super excited about it. We're fixing a lot of... What are you looking at?
I'm sorry. I told you I'm off today.
All right, I'm moving us along. You made your point.
Yeah. Okay.
To add to that, all the things that we're saying, we're going to start going down our list of bad. We're going to sandwich this. It's going to be bad, and then we're going to put some good at the end. Okay.
Bad, good,
yeah.
bad.
When you expand, or just in general running a business.
Business.
Running a business.
Mind your own business.
One of the hardest parts is pull it together. Is developing and maintaining leaders.
Oh yeah.
And we saw that in that we were developing a leader for Dunwoody.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of our focus that entire pre-Dunwoody time. So to also develop a leader for Alpharetta would have been wild.
Well, you're thinking like, guys, you're talking about 2 people. Come on. Or maybe even like 4 if we're thinking about 2 leaders per cafe. And it's less about maybe time is precious because we're tile guys during that phase as well.
Yeah.
But let alone we just don't have the income to like promote everybody to leadership.
Mm.
And I think as a small business, one of the hardest areas to navigate is the whole like, I want you to be in leadership, but I don't have any money. So we have to like wait until the 11th hour to like hit you with that pay bump, hit you with that responsibility without being like, yeah, just shadow me and like, let's just like learn for the next like 6 months. I'm not going to pay you anything for that.
Yeah, that's even
just
worse.
So I feel like we always opt to not do that, which is in someone's eyes could be like, you're opting not to develop, but we're trying not to like promise opportunity without pay.
Mm-hmm.
We're always very slow to be like, okay, now you can do this and here's your compensation for that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of people, including myself, that have been burned by the like small business, like you're in the weeds helping the owners kind of thing, but you're not seeing the compensation. So developing the right leaders when you really only have like 1 or 2 positions that you can compensate them fairly for is probably one of like the age-old challenges of a cafe in general. Just like maintaining the leadership you have while developing and bringing up the people that want to be there for the long term.
It's a good point, Ethan. We also just didn't know what the head coach position even was, because our only point of reference was you being the head coach and then Mikey being the operations coordinator of our first location. But you weren't even really the head coach because you were also doing owner stuff and you would like help out with wholesale sometimes and like help out with roasting sometimes and catering, and like you were doing all these things that an owner does, but you were also the head coach of Alpharetta. So we didn't really have the role fully built out yet in our minds. So we were just like, hey, you know, we're going to promote these people into these roles, but we don't fully even know what it's going to look like.
For sure.
So that was a hard, and we still don't have like, you know, years of experience under our new way of doing things either. So it's taken a while.
Yeah. Back to what you said. It's interesting because, and I stand by how we have done that. And I am by no means like saying we should do it a different way, but, and just kidding. So with a lot of traditional corporate jobs, it's like to get this job, you have to, on your own dime and time and sacrifice, get a degree. But it's a lot harder to make that ask in the workplace of like, by your own previous pay, you're going to come under me and learn from me, and then you're going to get the promotion. It's just a thought.
Sure.
I think there could be something to be said there of in a corporate job, they could be making a lot more money in that new position. Whereas
Maybe.
Well, like probably.
No, maybe.
Because like, you know, a GM of one of our cafes would be like one of the lowest level positions in a corporate company, but it's one of our highest positions. So it makes sense that there's like...
And it's a really cool job, Ross.
Now, there is the cool factor.
That's what it's all about.
Sky high.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We saw this pretty quickly as well, and I would like to maybe find a few examples, but we had a lot of pride in our system and our operation, our way of doing things, and we were like, this will translate. I think that we understood there would be some hiccups, and then obviously like we had we were way out in front of some things, like all the spreadsheets that we had. We were able to copy and paste go up to the edit.
Go to edit.
And I just want to draw attention to some of the areas where we were completely wrong about our systems.
I thought we were going to go to a good thing.
No,
It sounds
that's
like
at the end. We're still on the bad.
The first one that comes to mind for me is we went with Mod Bar in our second location, which we've had our ups and downs with that decision just as it stands, like just that in and of itself. But we went with Mod Bar because you can have a more custom approach to the bar flow, which I think we've talked about in the program before. But we went from left to right, espresso grinder, decaf espresso grinder, group head, steam wand, milk pitcher rinser, steam wand. So the idea was like we have 2 expo stations because we have 2 steam wands.
Mm-hmm.
And we just didn't have enough room on the counter to make drinks.
Mm-hmm.
I remember realizing that pretty early on because one of our big problems with our first location was pacing, meaning the rate of orders in versus the rate of orders out, production wise. And we thought if we can speed up the rate of drink making, then we can have 2 registers in our second location. So we have 2 POSs on either side of the front bar. And we're like, okay, well, that's going to be twice the orders. So that means we have to be twice as fast on the production side. So we're going to have 2 expo stations. But there just wasn't enough space on the counters to like build drinks. And we've ended up like sliding some stuff down and optimizing some. And then also the transparently, the steam wands, when you have them both on, are way underpowered on Mod Bar. And we've had problems with that. So those are the first things that come to my mind.
Mod Bar, if you want to make that right, go ahead and send us an email to info@valor.coffee.
Thank you, Mod Bar. Another thing that didn't translate, the whole 3 times the space, 3 times the dishes. So what was like someone's side task in Alpharetta is like they're doing restocking, refilling, they're running drinks. Oh, and they're doing some dishes. Now it's like someone's just doing dishes.
Think we'll ever change things around or have a big dishwasher in the back? You thought about that at all?
I think it would just, unless we got so busy that legit someone was just doing dishes. Yeah. But because that person's still on the floor and I was maybe being slightly hyperbolic, they still do other stuff. Having a dishwasher on the floor would be the best so they can still do other things. Because thankfully, one thing we did upgrade from cafe to cafe is we got a more expensive dishwasher. That thing's goated.
Goated with the sauce.
It's goated with the sauce. So it does work great.
Nice.
But,
and
3 times the space, 3 times the dishes does not equate to 3 times the money.
Right.
So, and if it did, we would just
10 times the money, right?
It's actually 10 times the money.
Wait,
no, if it did, we would just have another person on the floor.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
Yeah. I will say, especially over our first winter, I do think it established a higher floor for Dunwoody, which was a blessing. And I don't really know what it would have been like to have less seats, but for anyone, I told this to JP the other day, he was visiting. I was like, any of you guys out there with a small cafe and your constant complaint from guests would be, please get more seats. We have almost 100 seats with patio furniture and people still constantly complain that we need more seats. So
it'll never change.
Don't think that that's a problem specific to you. That is not.
All right. How about, this is a big one. When you open more businesses within your overarching entity, something's going to happen. And it's going to be that you will have to consider going more corporate vibes. And some people look at that as a bad thing. Some people look at it as a good thing. And I think it has its pros and its cons. So we can talk a little bit about good here, right? But the bad side would be the culture side. And this whole thing of bosses being more removed, likely because they are managing more things, splitting your time amongst more places.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Well, you got to start by looking at the root word, corpus.
You gonna bring in the Latin?
For the Latin, corporatus. I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, I think having a mindset of growth for us personally, we try to like model consistency and scalability across the board. Because when I think about maybe an in-cafe experience, we want someone to be able to go to either cafe and like receive the same product and it will be made the same way. But maybe for all those like creatives out there, that might be like a harder pill to swallow of like, just because you can pull something off in one cafe, it's like, oh, well, it can be special to here. And like, oh, this place can have its own special thing. Sauce. Yeah, maybe they have a special sauce that you get on the side of your latte. Because they make it in-house there.
Like a hollandaise.
Yeah.
Hollandaise latte.
Whoo, hey, don't get me started. Don't start spilling the summer menu, bro. Come on.
That's disgusting.
We already know one thing that's going to be on it.
What?
You like that?
You like that?
A Kirk Cousins drink?
Yeah, you guys got to hold me to that. I keep kind of forgetting.
All right.
I can put it in my notes. But maybe the biggest part about that like corporate transition is what you were talking about as far as like owner, like leadership absence or like spread thinness, because it's hard, man. You're trying to be in 3 places. So you're kind of like, depending on what light you're being cast in, you're kind of under delivering across the board unless you're fully in one place, because nobody else is really full-time in a cafe. Or nobody else is spread out like us, where there's people that work in each cafe or roastery and we're the ones kind of bouncing around. So it could be pretty easy to build a narrative of like, I only see this guy once a week. What's he doing? Or even just a positive side. When we had some great feedback from our head coach that just transitioned out, Mikey, around just like the people love seeing the owners, and it's harder for you guys to get down to Dunwoody because it's in the opposite direction of where you live. That's not like within the rhythms of your job description or title. But it's like, it does make a positive impact for like there to be more leadership presence.
Yeah. So what consideration does that make on another point, distance between the cafes?
Yeah.
And even with us, it's like Dunwoody is 19 minutes away. But for me, someone who works at HQ, who's like squad is here and who lives in the opposite direction, 19 minutes is...
It's 38
a long
minutes.
way. It's hard to get down there.
Yeah.
So what if that cafe was in Athens?
Chattanooga.
Or Charlotte.
Perry.
Or Perry, Georgia.
Butts County.
Or Coffee County.
Right.
Well, what would happen then?
You probably wouldn't go as much.
Yeah.
And I think that people that work at small businesses really enjoy the fact that they know the owners and the owners have like a more regular impact in where they work. So you would just it would feel more corporate-y. And that's really, you would need to implement almost, it seems like just more structure and even more systems, which is probably like the term corporate-y, some things you might think about when you hear that term. More systems, more structure, more like in a negative way, control, less creativity, less spontaneity, less organic stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much this has bit us in the butt, but there's literally like just a game of telephone happening as well. Of like, we get more FaceTime with the leaders of the cafe. So we're talking to them and we're game planning and talking and strategizing, but then they carry a message to their team. Like, the owners say this, or maybe they'll say that to the shift leads, the points, and then they say that to the team. And so there's just like words being carried around, and it's just different, that distance. but distance makes the heart grow fonder. So,
So how about we hit on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about funding. When you open a cafe, it's very likely you're going to have more debt. And it's also a good thing because you do have more assets as well. But
what are assets?
If you fund your second cafe entirely from the first cafe, hey, that's awesome.
Good on you.
Good on you. You got something going right.
Can you reach out to us and tell
us? But I would say you're gonna have to find some cash, and so it's just more liability overall. And that's pretty much it on that topic. We'll keep moving. This one's a good and a bad. It'll be a good transition to the good side of things, the fun part. Yeah. So we've seen this a little bit. When you have multiple cafes, those people in those cafes might fall into this thing where they compare themselves to the other cafe.
Little battle.
Well, there's a little battle, right?
Little friendly rivalry.
Yeah. You might be thinking, how's that good, Ethan?
It is good because it's like friendly internal competition to me, at least, of like, how good is Alpharetta doing? What are they getting right? What are they nailing? And how can we learn from them, harness that, bottle that up, take it over to Dunwoody and, work it out. And I think a lot of that comes into like leaders and their strengths, like we have savvy and leadership in Dunwoody right now, incredibly organized, very prone to action as far as like, there's a thing we're out of or a problem or something that could be made better, she will make steps to remedy that. So things that I don't think of, because I'm a little bit more of the adaptable type. Like, hey, there's a problem. How can we work around it?
Without just like dancing around.
I'm just like doing this kind of stuff. But like, so she, we're running through towels a lot. She's like, how can some of these towels be replaced with more permanent fixtures like bar mats or something so that we don't have to use as much towels? And then someone comes and picks up a shift in Dunwoody and they're like, whoa, you guys have all these little like trinkets and tools that are making the operation more efficient and smooth. It's kind of cool. And then next thing I know, I'm in Alpharetta and they have bar mats over their stuff. You're like,
that's cool.
Oh, okay. That's kind of goated.
Makes you be like, how can we even incorporate that system to where, like, I don't want to say like Savvy bought it for Alpharetta as well.
But you want to say that.
But yeah, like Savvy, we're going to need you to start doing stuff like that. I'm just kidding. You know what I'm saying?
No, but there's just collaboration there.
Yeah.
There can be more connectivity. Like next time Alpharetta comes up with something they're enjoying, or next time Dunwoody comes up with something that is making their operation more efficient, they can ping the other leaders and be like, hey, we just got these and they're working out great. You might want to get them too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are living in that core value of being better together.
Yeah.
Whoa.
There's more innovation happening because you have different people in leadership and different people working. It's kind of like having, like when you just go to another cafe that you really respect. You're like, oh, you do it that way?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
To say one more like negative thing, whenever
we weren't supposed to say any more negative things. We're on
good
and
vibes
bad.
only.
On your point of there might be comparison between the two cafes amongst the team, like there's a reason why unfair treatment in the workplace happens everywhere in every company to some level all the time.
You're trying to justify it?
I'm not trying to justify it.
Trying to shed light on it.
I'm trying to say that no one is like above being found guilty of doing that. Just like other things.
Except us.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't have any like glaring examples of how we've unfairly treated our two locations, but they are different. Like they're different to some degree. And so you can't just copy and paste absolutely every single thing you do to both of them and the way that you lead and manage them. Because if you did, that would not serve them well. What?
It's just, you're talking about parenting, which is just really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, each one's different. But that's where values come in because you treat them from the same core values. But you're just at a greater danger of treating two different parties differently and then one of them feeling slighted in that.
Yeah. We saw this happen pretty quickly. Really good thing. If you roast your own coffee, you're about to pick up either your first or your second biggest wholesale account, probably. And it was like overnight, okay, here we go. Lots more coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool.
Absolutely. Which feeds into something that I said earlier of the owner's longer term vision for the company. Like we have always wanted to grow the roasting side of our business, hence why we're in this larger warehouse space. You know, we didn't go for like 1,000 square foot type build for this. So we always wanted to have a really high ceiling for production. So
15 feet.
Right. Having a second location was definitely towards that end as well. And the more that roaster is going, the more green coffee we can buy, and the more economical those purchases are for us and for everyone else.
Hey, that leads perfectly into the next topic, which is purchasing power.
PP.
So not only does it help the purchasing power in your roastery, heck, custom cups.
Hey, just got somewhere to put them.
Hit that next price break. And there's many things that can happen with, you know, if you are buying merch, you know, instead of buying 50 shirts, you're going to buy
1,500.
100 shirts and hit that. So you're hitting those price breaks. Things just get cheaper. That's why the biggest companies are the most profitable a lot of times. They have that purchasing power.
That's right. That's a good point. You're
okay.
smart.
Yeah. In the vein of, man, I'm just killing these transitions. In the vein of having more,
Okay.
you have a larger pool of talent, more people.
That's a good one.
More people within your organization. So if you are looking for your next leader, you're choosing from 20 goated people instead of 10 goated people.
Yeah, it's almost like the circle around your company just got bigger. Hey, commute's real, you know? It's like we almost brought on that guy or we didn't almost, but like an awesome guy from Athens. Really wanted to work at Valor. I'm like, dude, you're amazing. He's like, you live an hour and a half away. It's just like literally where you live has such a large impact on if you're going to work at that place. Yep. So our circle just got bigger by, you're close to Roswell, or you're close to Alpharetta, close to Dunwoody.
Yeah. And we always really struggled with covering shifts when we had one cafe. And a lot of times that led to you, Ethan, just working more, covering them. And I remember really looking forward to over doubling the size of our team with the warehouse team here and then also our second location. So there's just more people, there's more margin in people's schedule to be able to flex to cover shifts, which inevitably constantly happens.
Yeah. And not that we pull this card a lot, but I guess you could feel slightly less bad if you have to close one of your stores, for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
It's like, we will be closed at this time. Please go to the other store.
I've heard a lot of people ask this since having a second location, but do we share staff between the two locations? Are we in a habit of doing that? Is it like totally fluid? Why?
I'd love to hear from Riley's perspective, but for the most part, no. We like to have just teams in both. They are different enough where there's like just a slight learning curve, but it's nothing too crazy. But I think there's just something to like having a cohesive team, and when you jump around, you kind of like break that up a little bit. But not to say that we don't have people maybe hop back and forth to cover
on occasion.
But I would assume, I want to hear from Riley, that maybe doing the payroll on that is less fun.
Yeah, it's all about system. And I think I've got a spreadsheet that has reconciled some of that a little bit. So It's fine. I mean, it's still probably not preferred because everyone just should have their home base.
Mm-hmm.
But that is certainly a pro, is that it mainly happens with coverage needs. And I think if you have more people to cover more shifts to that point, it's like, you're never just going to be like, we have to close at 3 today because everyone's on vacation.
Yep.
Instead, it's like, Paul's going to help out in Alpharetta for a couple hours.
For sure.
Thanks, Paul.
And
See you there tonight.
I like that each team has deeper connections with each other and the guests in their respective cafes because they're like specialized to that cafe.
Mm. Yeah. So I think to kind of end this, we'll just talk about like the brand recognition of Cafe Number 2. This is kind of going back to that like second concept being the same as the first or not. When you have a second iteration of something, a lot of things that were really hard the first time when you were a nobody become a lot easier.
For
Like,
sure.
because of that first cafe, if you're doing well enough to open a second cafe, you are going to have developers reaching out to you, like giving you the opportunities before it hits the open market.
Mm-hmm.
So with your first cafe, if you're having to search for real estate, on the next one, the opportunities might be coming to you because they want your brand in their space. And with that, you have a brand built. You might have like a social media following. You have something that people are familiar with. So when you open the door on Cafe Number 2, maybe you do have a $1,600 day your first day instead of a $500 day on the first day of your first location. So those things certainly become easier and certainly are an enticing reason that I think that makes people want to get into this.
Yeah, we may have talked about it before, but specifically to the build out, that is a lot easier typically with like the deal you're able to get set up with. Because I mean, on the first cafe, we got a bag of chips for signing a lease, and we had to start paying rent immediately, no help with construction, blah, 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 blah. Because we had no leverage. It was like, we're not an established brand. These people are like, this could bottom out in 2 weeks. We don't even know if you have money. But now if you're getting pulled into a second location where someone's excited to have you there, they want you there, and they're like going to help you make that happen. But remembering you have to run that the whole time. So it's not just like, because that's easy, it's going to be gravy. Maybe you do have a higher floor, but doing enough foresight to know that you're jumping into a good system or a good place for your second cafes is huge. Because I think maybe one of the negatives that I think might be hard to assess internally because of our relationship with the company, but when you start growing, I think the thing you have to start fighting the most is like brand dilution or like culture dilution. Things can typically just become more mediocre and like normal coffee shop vibes. And that was one of my biggest fears when we started Valor, was this like, oh, I just liked it when the owners did it, but that just gets back to making sure you have the right people, the right opportunity. And then that people are going to say, owners who cares?
Right.
Ross, Riley, Ethan, who? I like this person. Paul.
That's why your new role is going to be Chief Preventer of Brand Dilution. CPBD.
CPDBB.
Well, I think that about sums up and gives everyone an answer to whether they should open a second cafe, right? They know.
That was fully comprehensive, yes.
Awesome. We did our work here today.
Thanks for leading us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for helping me segue.
I am a leader of leaders. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, I lead you, so.
While I'm leading you. Yes, that is correct.
Endless circle. But
hey, see you at SCA, huh?
Yeah, don't forget. And if you want to try the coffee we had today, swoon. You've got until May 31st to buy some.
Do we have a podcast next week?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have one more podcast before SCA.
Yeah,
awesome.
Totally.
So don't say like next time we see you, it'll be after.
Yeah, I won't say
because
it.
that's not
that
true.
would not
Just
be
simply
right.
not the case.
We've got one more. All right. Love y'all.
Bye.